right, welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, a classic.
Yeah, this book has been huge in personal finance for years and years.
And I know a lot of our listeners have been asking us to break it down.
Absolutely. So we're going to do just that. We'll be exploring the core ideas, comparing the Rich Dad and Poor Dad philosophies.
And even touch on Kiyosaki's thoughts about taxes and how those work, especially with corporations.
Exactly. A lot to unpack. So are you ready?
Oh, absolutely. Let's dive in. It's always fascinating to revisit this book. What always gets me is how Kiyosaki uses his personal stories to explain money stuff.
Yeah.
It just makes it click, you know what I mean? Like comparing his own dad's advice to his friend's rich dad. That's the heart of the book.
That Rich Dad versus Poor Dad incept is so memorable,
Right.
but it's deeper than just saying, like, rich people are good, poor people are bad.
Oh, for sure. It's about highlighting different mindsets about money. Like the poor dad mentality is all about that steady job.
Right, security, security, security.
Yeah, exactly. But the rich dad mindset, it's all about building assets that actually create wealth.
And that's where that story of Kiyosaki working for, what was it, 10 cents an hour?
10 cents an hour, yep.
That really gets you thinking.
It's such a powerful story. It wasn't about the low pay. It was about learning how money works.
Yeah.
Breaking free from that I'm trading my hours for dollars trap and making your money work for you.
That's a perfect segue into assets versus liabilities.
Oh, yeah.
Which I feel like is like the foundation of Kiyosaki's whole philosophy. So how does he define those terms?
Super simply, assets put money in your pocket and liabilities take money out.
Got it.
I love how he uses that diagram, the cash flow diagram, to explain this to his own father,
Oh, yeah.
who, he was having a hard time wrapping his head around how a house isn't always an asset.
That's a fantastic point because it challenges us to think beyond what we assume we know, Like, where is our money actually go?
Exactly.
Are we building assets or are we just, like, drowning in liabilities?
Honestly, that's a question everybody should ask themselves, like seriously. And it goes hand in hand with another big idea from the book, minding your own business.
Now, when I first heard that, I thought, wait, is he saying everyone needs to quit their job and be an entrepreneur?
Right. And that's not what he means. Not for everyone, at least.
Okay, good.
Kiyosaki's talking about building up that asset column that we just talked about.
Right.
Even if you're working a regular 9-to-5 job, like he uses the example of Ray Kroc.
Ah, McDonald's.
Yes. He didn't get rich selling burgers. He got rich owning the land under all those McDonald's.
So smart.
Right. So you can have a job and still be building an income-generating asset portfolio, even if it's just on the side at first.
That's a great point, like adopting that entrepreneurial mindset, even in a traditional job.
Exactly.
So speaking of challenging traditional thinking, Kiyosaki also gets into some, well, let's say, strong opinions about taxes.
Oh, yeah, he does.
And the whole power dynamics of corporations.
For sure.
What's his take on all that?
Basically, he argues that the current tax system, well, it kind of unfairly burdens the middle class, while the wealthy can use corporations to,
To, like, legally pay less taxes?
Exactly.
That's a pretty loaded statement.
It is.
I don't think we need to go full-on tax law experts right now, but
Right.
it does make you think about how different income groups interact with the system.
Definitely. He wants us to question those simple narratives about taxes, like the Robin Hood idea,
Yeah.
and really look at the realities of how wealth and corporations fit into the picture,
Yeah, it's complex.
It is, for sure.
Okay, so we're seeing the need for a mindset shift for financial literacy, but building wealth isn't always smooth sailing, right?
No, not at all.
How does Kiyosaki address those inevitable roadblocks that people hit?
He has a whole section on it, and he outlines 5 major obstacles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and even arrogance.
Wow, 5.
Yeah,
That's a lot to battle.
it is. It is.
And that story about his rich dad sending him to the Alamo?
Oh, yeah.
Not as a tourist,
No?
but to learn about risk and failure.
That's such a good example. It's like instead of shielding him from failure, his rich dad embraces it.
It's part of the process.
Exactly. Part of learning.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we will mess up,
We will.
but it's how we handle those setbacks that makes the difference.
Totally. And it's not even just about being afraid to fail. It's cynicism, self-doubt, even plain laziness.
Right.
All those things can stop us from seeing opportunities, let alone grabbing them.
You know what that reminds me of? Kiyosaki's idea that the rich invent money.
Oh, yeah, that one.
It's not just about working hard, it's about being creative, finding solutions, right?
Absolutely. He argues that money is an idea, not just dollar bills.
Right.
It's about seeing value where other people don't and turning that into, income.
Can you give us an example? Like, how does Kiyosaki actually invent money in the book?
Oh, there's that story where he finds a house selling for way less than it's worth,
Uh-huh.
like $20,000 less.
Wow.
He buys it immediately, and then flips it for a $40,000 profit.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
It shows how he sees the opportunity and goes for it, even when everyone else is hesitant. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, this rich dad mindset, it's not just about hard work or luck.
No.
It's about financial smarts, creativity, and overcoming those mental hurdles.
Absolutely.
But where do you even begin to put all this into practice?
Well, Kiyosaki gives us 10 actionable steps to get started.
Ooh, nice. Practical advice.
Yeah, he calls it the getting started section. And it's important to remember that building wealth takes time. It takes dedication.
Yeah.
But these steps are a good roadmap for shifting how you think about money.
Okay, so let's break down these steps. The first one, find a reason greater than reality. It's all about finding your why.
Yes, your drive.
That fire that fuels you.
Exactly. And then he talks about what you're feeding your mind each day, because we have control over that.
Right, what we choose to let in.
Exactly. And he doesn't just stop there. He says choosing your friends carefully is huge,
Oh, interesting. Why?
because their influence can either help or hurt you.
Oh, for sure. Your circle matters.
It really does.
Makes sense.
And then he says master a formula and then learn a new one.
Keep learning.
Keep learning, because the world of money is always changing. You have to adapt.
Okay, got it.
He also talks about paying yourself first.
Ooh, what does that mean?
It means putting your financial well-being ahead of just spending on whatever you want right now.
Discipline.
Yes.
Discipline.
And then he says to pay your brokers well, because they can bring you deals.
Ah, so it's an investment.
Exactly. They expand your opportunities.
Smart.
One of the steps that sounds kind of strange is be an Indian giver.
Okay, explain.
But it's not about dishonesty. It's about getting assets that give back to you, assets that generate income.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Right. Like the opposite of getting things that just drain your money.
Okay, so it's like assets buy luxuries, liabilities create debt.
Exactly.
That's a good way to put it.
Then he says to choose heroes who inspire you.
Role models.
Yes. People in the business world, the investing world, who have qualities you admire.
I like that.
And lastly, he emphasizes teaching to receive more, because when you're generous, it comes back to you, you know?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So these 10 steps are a framework, not a strict recipe, right?
Right.
And it's cool how Kiyosaki connects them to his own journey, which he talks about in the Finding Your Path chapter, where
Yeah.
he talks about going beyond just the traditional school system and finding his own way to success. He
Exactly.
separates our profession, the job we do, from our life's path of what we're meant to do, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, like, what is your life's path? What impact do you want to have?
That's a big question.
It is.
It's a good one, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's interesting how he emphasizes that finding your path doesn't always have to be this big dramatic thing.
Right.
Sometimes it's these small changes in how we view work and money. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know, he really challenges that whole working for money idea.
he does. Remember when he refused to pay Mike and himself when they first started working for his rich dad?
Oh, yeah. That was a lesson.
It was.
Not like exploitation or anything. He
Right.
wanted them to think differently, you know?
To think outside that box of, like, a normal job.
Exactly. Like when they set up that comic book library in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just earning wages, they were little business owners.
They were, and they even hired Mike's sister, so they were learning to be managers, too.
Exactly. They had to learn how to solve problems, be resourceful, and make money without trading their time directly for it.
So smart. Okay, so if it's not just about working hard, what is Kiyosaki's path to financial success?
It all comes down to understanding how money works, what he calls financial literacy.
Okay.
Being able to read those financial statements, knowing the difference between an asset and a liability,
Right.
building up that asset column.
And he even challenges his own father on this, you know? Like, his dad was super educated.
I know, right?
But Kiyosaki says, hey, a house isn't always the asset everyone thinks it is.
And that's where those cash flow diagrams are so helpful.
Yeah, they help you visualize where the money's going.
Exactly. So you can understand how even a house can become a liability if it's draining your cash instead of generating more.
It's about thinking critically about your finances, making informed choices based on how money actually flows, not just following tradition blindly.
Absolutely. And once you have that financial literacy foundation, that's when minding your own business comes in.
And we talked about how that doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job, right?
Exactly. It's about building that asset column on the side, even if it starts with something small like a rental property or investing in stocks, or maybe a side hustle that brings in a second income stream.
Makes sense. Kiyosaki's pretty upfront about the fact that there will be obstacles, though.
Oh, for sure.
He talks a lot about fear being a big one.
Fear can be paralyzing. It can stop you from taking the risks you need to grow financially.
And I love that he uses the Alamo as this analogy for how to approach fear.
Oh, such a good analogy. The Alamo reminds us that failure is going to happen, but it's how we react to it that matters.
Yeah.
It's about seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and get stronger.
So it's not about pretending we're not afraid. It's about acknowledging it, but not letting it control us.
Exactly. And it's not just fear of failure either.
What else?
He says cynicism and doubt can also stop us from seeing good opportunities.
He does.
Yeah. He tells a story about a friend who almost invested in some real estate,
Okay.
but then backed out because he started listening to all the naysayers.
Oh, no.
It shows how important it is to have a positive support system, people who believe in you.
People who encourage you to go for it.
Exactly. Not people who just feed your doubts.
I like that. So true. And he also talks about those more internal roadblocks too, like laziness and bad habits.
Oh, those are sneaky. They can really sabotage your progress.
I
He's
know.
big on discipline, especially when it comes to money.
Yeah,
Remember, pay yourself first.
that's a good one.
It's all about prioritizing your financial well-being, not just spending everything you make.
Exactly. And it all comes back to making money work for you.
Yes, not the other way around.
Now, there's one roadblock he mentions that I think might surprise some people: arrogance.
Arrogance.
Yeah.
What does he say about that?
He argues that arrogance can actually make us blind to what we don't know.
Ah,
It stops us from seeking out knowledge or advice that could really help us.
makes sense.
So he encourages being humble and open to learning from others.
Especially those who are more experienced or knowledgeable.
Exactly. All right. So to recap, we've got the contrasting mindsets of rich dad versus poor dad,
Right.
the importance of financial literacy,
Mm-hmm.
minding your own business by building assets,
Yes.
and overcoming those mental hurdles that can trip us up.
A lot to think about.
It is, but it's so cool how Kiyosaki uses stories and examples from his own life to make these ideas relatable.
It makes it stick.
It does. And he doesn't just leave us with theory. He gives us actual steps we can take.
Oh, you mean those 10 actionable steps?
Yes, he lays them all out in the Getting Started chapter.
It's a good blueprint.
It is. Okay, so we already covered the first 5. Finding your why, feeding your mind with positive input, choosing your friends carefully, mastering a formula, and then learning a new one and paying yourself first.
Right. What about the rest?
Okay, number 6 is paying your brokers well.
Pay your brokers well.
Yeah, he believes that good brokers are worth their fees.
Why is that?
Because they can save you time and connect you with opportunities you might not find on your own.
Ah, like they're part of your team.
Exactly. Brokers, accountants, attorneys, they can guide you on this journey.
Makes sense.
Number 7 is being an Indian giver.
Okay, we talked about that one. It's not about being dishonest.
No.
It's about getting assets that actually generate income.
That give back to you.
Exactly.
Making your money work for you, not the other way around.
Right.
Number 8 is a simple but important distinction. Assets buy luxuries. Liabilities create debt.
Ooh, that's a good one to remember.
It is. It helps you focus on building wealth, not accumulating debt.
For sure.
Then number 9, choosing heroes to inspire you.
Oh, I like that one. Finding role models in the business and investing world.
Exactly. People who embody the qualities you want to cultivate.
And finally, number 10 is teaching to receive more.
Ah, the power of generosity.
Yeah. He believes that when you share your knowledge, you open yourself up to even more abundance.
I like that. So these 10 steps are a solid framework, but Kiyosaki's clear that financial success isn't just about the technical stuff.
No, there's a mindset piece too, right?
Exactly. He talks about developing your financial genius.
Your financial genius.
Yeah.
Is that something you're born with?
He says no, it's something you develop through education, experience, and being willing to step outside your comfort zone.
You have to be willing to try new things.
Exactly. He uses Alexander Graham Bell as an example.
Oh, interesting. How so?
You know, Bell was told his idea for the telephone was crazy,
Oh, right.
but he believed in it, and he didn't let the doubters stop him.
And look what happened.
Exactly. Kiyosaki's saying that those who challenge the status quo, who pursue their vision even when others don't get it, they're often the ones who achieve groundbreaking success.
So it's about having the courage to think differently.
Yeah. And to trust your gut, even when others might not see what you see.
That takes butts.
It does, and that leads into his idea of inventing money, which sounds kind of mysterious.
It does. What does he mean by that?
He's basically saying that money is more of a concept than just physical cash.
Okay.
It's about seeing value where others don't and having the ingenuity to turn that insight into profit.
So, like an entrepreneur sees a need that nobody else has noticed,
Exactly.
and they create a product or a service to fill that need.
And he uses real estate as a big example of this, right? Finding undervalued properties, negotiating good deals, and being creative with financing to acquire assets that make money.
It sounds like it takes a lot of knowledge and skill.
It does. He's not saying it's easy,
Right.
but he's saying the opportunities are out there.
For anyone willing to put in the work.
Exactly. Now, this brings us to, I think, one of the more controversial parts of the book, his views on taxes and corporations.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
He really dives into the idea that wealthy people and corporations don't play by the same rules as everyone else when it comes to taxes.
In what way?
He says they use corporations to their advantage to legally pay less in taxes,
Oh, okay.
and that the middle class ends up shouldering a bigger part of the burden.
Interesting.
He wants readers to understand the history of taxes, the role of corporations, and how these systems can be used to build and protect wealth.
So he's not saying people should do anything illegal,
No, not at all.
right?
He's just pointing out that the tax code is complex, and there are legal strategies that can help you minimize your tax liability.
So it's about being informed.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and taking control of your financial destiny, not just accepting the way things are.
I like that.
You know what really stuck with me from the book? It's not just about the money stuff. It's that Kiyosaki talks about finding your purpose too.
Oh, yeah, he calls it your life's path.
That's it. Like, he even talks about leaving his job in the Marine Corps.
I remember that. He had a good, secure job.
He did.
But he felt like he had to follow his passion, even if it was risky.
It was. And he makes this point that there's a difference between your profession, the job you do, and your life's path, like what you're meant to do.
That's deep, man.
It is. It's about legacy. What impact do you want to have? It's not just about the money.
It's about finding that thing that lights you up.
Yes, and making it work.
Exactly. For some people, it might be starting a business, but for others, it could be investing or even creating art,
It's unique to each person.
It is.
Now, I know some listeners might be thinking, okay, this is all great, but I don't have time to become a real estate mogul or a stock market whiz.
Right. It can feel overwhelming.
It can.
Like, where do you even start?
Exactly. But Kiyosaki says it's a journey, not a sprint.
You don't have to do everything at once.
No, it's about taking small steps consistently.
Little by little.
And you know what he suggests.
What's that?
Playing his cash flow board game.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun way to learn about money.
It is. It's a safe way to practice making investment decisions.
Without risking your actual money.
Yeah. And for those who are ready to take it to the next level, he recommends finding mentors and joining communities.
Oh, surrounding yourself with people who get it.
Yes. People who are on the same journey who can support and guide you.
Support is so important.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
what are the big takeaways?
I think the main message is that financial freedom is possible.
For anyone.
For anyone who's willing to challenge their beliefs, learn about money, and take action.
You have to be proactive.
You do. It's about taking control of your financial future.
Not just letting things happen to you.
Exactly. It's not about following some rigid formula.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you and learning as you go.
And never giving up.
Never giving up. So as we leave you to think about all this wisdom from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, we want to leave you with one final question. What's one action, big or small, that you're inspired to take after this deep dive? It's time to turn knowledge into action and start building the financial future you deserve.